In this section, we're going to talk about Punnett squares. So sometimes you'll hear them said as Punnett squares or Punnett squares. I generally just say Punnett. It's easier to see it. Basically, this is where your alleles and traits and genotypes and all of that meets with probability. Now, it's relatively simple probability, so don't get all freaked out about math or numbers or anything like that, okay? So inheritance of traits follows the rules of probability. So Punnett squares are actually a way of kind of illustrating that probability so you don't have to sit there and calculate it all out. It's very easy to just kind of fill out a Punnett square and then you can see the different probabilities. Okay, so it's a grid system for predicting all of the possible genotypes resulting from a cross of two parents with known genotypes. Okay. You can also use the genotypes or phenotypes even of the offspring to go back and figure out the genotypes of the parent generation. So the axes on this grid represent the possible gametes from each parent. And we'll go into how to figure all of that out because it differs if you're dealing with a single trait versus multiple traits. So the boxes inside the grid are going to show all the possible genotypes of the offspring. Okay, so again, you can just go in and count all of your numbers. It's really simple at that point. So the Punnett square yields the ratio of possible genotypes, and then you can also figure out the phenotypes from those genotypes. Okay. All right, so this is what a Punnett square looks like. All right, you literally just draw a square and then divide it into four smaller squares. So one line down the middle, one line across in the middle, and then if your parents are both heterozygotes, so they both have one of each allele, so you're crossing a heterozygote with a heterozygote. Okay, so the possible gametes. Remember, each gamete is only going to get one copy of the allele from each parent, okay? So basically, parent 1, right here, will form a gamete with a capital A, or a gamete with a lowercase a, okay? Parent 2, over here, can form a gamete with a capital A, or a gamete with a lowercase a, okay? And so that's really how it's done. How you figure all of this out. That was kind of bad, but there we go. Okay, so that's how they figure out the axes. All right, you figure out the possible gametes you can get from those parents, and those go on the axes. And then you want to start with your dominant alleles, so your capitals. So when you would be filling this out, okay, draw your square. You've got your two parents and their possible gametes. You want to start off by listing out the dominant alleles first. Okay, so we'll just go straight down in this first column. Okay, so that capital A can be donated to both of these squares. And then we'll go straight across for the first row. And that capital A gets donated to both of those squares. And then you do the same with your recessive alleles. Okay, and that's how you basically fill out a Punnett square. And now if we're going to look at the genotypes here, we have three possible genotypes. We have our homozygous dominant, we have our heterozygous, and we have our homozygous recessive. So now you literally just count. You have four possible squares, okay? So 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so we've got each of these probabilities are going to be out of 4. Okay, we have only one square that will give us a homozygous dominant. So you put a 1 there. We have 2 that will give us heterozygous. So that's 2/4, or reduce it down to 1/2. And then we only have 1 that will give us a homozygous recessive. Okay, so basically you could say this is a 1 to 2 to 1 relationship of genotypes. Now let's look at the phenotypes. Remember, any of these possible genotypes that has a dominant allele in it will produce the dominant phenotype. So now we just have our two phenotypes. dominant or recessive. Okay? So we have dominant here, dominant here, dominant here. So that's 3. Okay? We still have 4 possibilities, 4 squares here. Okay? And then recessive, only 1 right here will form a recessive phenotype. So it's a 3-to-1 relationship there with the phenotypes. Okay? And that's your probabilities. All right? You can turn them into decimal form as well, where this would be 25% of the offspring should have a homozygous dominant, 50% would be heterozygous, and then another 25% would be homozygous recessive. 75% would do the dominant phenotype, while only 25% would do the recessive phenotype. Okay? So there's your probabilities. So this was a monohybrid cross that we just looked at. Monohybrid crosses only look at the inheritance of one specific trait or gene. You can get more complex, okay, which we'll see in a little bit. But let's just look at a couple different monohybrid crosses. So we've got a homozygous dominant crossing with a homozygous recessive. Okay, so we've got homozygous dominant crossed with homozygous recessive. Okay, so we'll draw our Punnett square, put one parent here, and one parent here. A's, those are A's. Alright, we donate capital A to each one here, and a lowercase going across. Alright, so we see that all of our genotypes are heterozygous. Okay, so we have heterozygous is 100%. And because they're heterozygous, they will also all have the dominant phenotype. So that one's relatively simple. Okay, let me erase that. And you can see what we just looked at. Okay, you have your homozygous dominant parent here and our homozygous recessive parent here. The two capital F's get put both down the columns, and then the two lowercase f's go across. Okay, so you end up with all of your offspring having the heterozygous phenotype or genotype and expressing the dominant phenotype. So now let's look at well, we actually already looked at this one, heterozygous and heterozygous. So this is the capital lowercase, capital lowercase. This is the one we did on the first slide. Okay, so we have two heterozygous parents, okay, and you get the capital F goes down, capital F goes across, and then you do your lowercase f down and lowercase f across. And you get your 1 to 2 to 1 relationship in genotypes with one homozygous dominant, two heterozygous, and one homozygous recessive. And then your phenotypes, you have 3 dominants and only 1 recessive. Alright, heterozygous and homozygous recessive. So we have, we'll just switch to using an F. We have an heterozygous, which is capital F, little f, and we have a homozygous recessive, which is 2 lowercase f's. Okay, so we've got our Punnett square, and go ahead and draw all that in, and then we put one parent on top, one parent on the side, and then we take our capital F's and go down the column with them, and then we can take our lowercase f's here and go down the column with them, and then take our first lowercase f and go across the row, and the same with our second. So if you look at this, we only have 2 different genotypes possible with this cross. We have a heterozygous, and we also have a homozygous recessive. We do not have a homozygous dominant at this point. Okay? Now we still have 4 boxes in this Punnett square, so each of these are out of 4. Now you have 2 heterozygous genotypes and 2 homozygous recessive. Okay, so that basically equals 50% and 50%. So it's a 2 to 2 ratio, which simplifies down to a 1 to 1 ratio. And then if you look at the phenotype, both of these will produce the dominant phenotype, and both of these will produce the homozygous, or will produce the recessive phenotype. So again, it's a one-to-one relationship there. We'll see that right here. Okay? All right. So what they'll do sometimes if they don't know what the genotype of an organism is, they will do what's known as a test cross. So this is a cross between an organism with a known genotype, which is the recessive phenotype, okay? So basically, if it has the recessive phenotype, they know that it's a homozygous recessive genotype. So this would be an A, lowercase a. And then they don't know the genotype of the other organism. And when they don't know it, it means that it's expressing the dominant phenotype, okay? Which means it could either be homozygous dominant or heterozygous, okay? So if they have a homozygous dominant parent, okay, we'll do this real quick. You get this crossed with this one. You would get all offspring would be heterozygotes. So they would all exhibit the dominant phenotype. Now, if the unknown genotype were heterozygous instead, okay, you would end up with half and half. Half would be 50% of the offspring would be exhibiting the dominant phenotype here. The other half would be expressing the recessive phenotype. Okay, so that's what a test cross does, what it looks at. So if the organism with the unknown genotype is homozygous dominant, all offspring will have the dominant phenotype. They will be heterozygous offspring. If the organism with the unknown genotype is heterozygous, half of the offspring will have the recessive phenotype and be homozygous recessive. The other half will be heterozygous. Okay? If the organism with the unknown genotype is homozygous recessive, it will have the recessive phenotype, so its genotype can only be homozygous recessive. So it's not an unknown genotype at that point. You already know what it is. All right. So now we're going to take a quick look at dihybrid crosses. So this is when you start involving more than one trait. You're looking at two traits at once. Okay, so Mendel actually did dihybrid crosses with heterozygous plants, and he got a 9:3 to 3:1 phenotypic ratio. Okay, so this actually led to his second law, and that is known as the law of independent assortment. So allele pairs will separate independently of each other during meiosis. Okay. All right, so we're actually going to pause here and then start with the dihybrid cross going through it in the next